Oh, I see that. Okay, all right, let's get rolling. This is our daily Power Parsha. All right, folks, welcome to the daily Power Parsha. I am Rabbi Sollish. It's great to have you all here to study together. As you see, I have on the screen. By the way, we stream these to YouTube, and I'm getting comments from folks watching on YouTube. How come I can't see the screen? And it's a really good question. But the answer is because the screen can be seen only if you're live on Zoom. But if you're watching on YouTube, I use a separate camera for that, not my computer camera. I use a separate standalone device, which y'all can see over here, right? Turning the tables on the camera. So that is the second camera. That's my YouTube camera, and unfortunately, it does not show my screen, which is why those that are watching later can't always see the screen. But for those of you that are on right now on Zoom, you see face masks in the Hashtash Dilemma tonight, 8 p.m. I'll be teaching this. It's going to be a great discussion, very important discussion as well. Okay, so let's jump in. This week we have I think the right word is reprisal. Is that the right word? Is that a correct word? Yes? Or like a redux, redo? Not a do-over, but like part 2. Because it was so enjoyable the first time, so now second time around we are going to explore the Torah portion of Naso. And although we had insights last week, Monday through Thursday, when it comes to Torah, there is no end to the insights in Torah, and there's no end to the number of ways in which the same verses, the same portion can be understood. So the goal this week is twofold. Number one, to study Torah each day, but also number two, to see how Torah truly is multifaceted and how there are so many different ways in which Torah can be understood. And I think that itself is a marvelous lesson. All right, let me welcome everybody. Ray, welcome. Max, welcome. Good to see you. Donna, welcome. Stan, welcome. Sandrine, welcome. Matt, welcome. And Stephanie, welcome. It is great to see you all. Let us jump right in. I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to jump right into our first topic of conversation, which is actually going to be the opposite of what I said last week. And again, it's not a contradiction. We say Shivim Panim La Torah, which means there are 70 faces of Torah. Now that's an awkward expression in the English, but it kind of evokes the notion of let's say like a diamond, where the beauty of a diamond is when it's cut just the right way, just at the right angle, so that when you hold a diamond and give it a bit of a rotation, it sparkles, it shines, it catches the light. The same thing is true with Torah. Torah is cut, so to speak, in such a way that every time you turn it or you look at it from this angle or that angle, another point of radiance and brilliance shines and sparkles. And that is the goal, and therefore I'm going to tell you something that is the exact opposite of what I said last week, but both are true. It's like the famous story where the two litigants come before the rabbi. They come to the rabbi's house arguing over a financial dispute, a financial matter, and the rabbi listens to the argument from the one party and he says, you know what? You're right. And then the second party says his argument and he says to the second guy, you know what? You're right. And his wife, the Rebbitzin, the rabbi's wife, says from the other room, how can they both be right? And the rabbi says to her, you're also right. And that's, of course, a classic rabbi joke, but it expresses a truth in Torah. In Torah we say, Elu va'elu divrei Elokim chayim. Both these and these are the words of the living God, which means, for example, when it comes to Talmudic disputes in Jewish law between, let's say famously, the academies of Hillel and Shammai, so the Talmud says, don't think that only one is correct and the other one is completely off base. No. Both have their source in interpretation, understanding in the Torah itself. Therefore, both are divine, both are godly. It's just that sometimes when it comes to action, there's only one way that halacha, that Jewish law, can follow. There's only one path for action. But in concept, in theory, you can find multiple paths. I want to give you an example. The truth is, the more refined a logical argument is, the more you can see it fall on both ways, both sides. Let me say that one more time, maybe with better language. The less concretized a concept is, the more abstract the concept is, the more it can be applied in different ways and even in contradictory ways. But whereas when you take a concept and you drill it down and you concretize it, at that point it's stuck in the path that it was made to be concretized. Give you an example from Torah. So in the beginning, God created heaven and earth and put all sorts of creations in this wonderful planet that we call home, including the human being, Adam and Eve. And what happens, famously? Adam and Eve mess up. And from that point, they're banished from the Garden of Eden, and that begins a downward trajectory for human beings, culminating in the great flood in the times of Noah, when the world is basically, humanity is destroyed, and Noah and his family are the only ones that are spared in the ark with the animals, and they rebuild the world after post-flood. Now, in the time leading up to the flood, the Torah says that God looked at earth and looked at human beings and said, you know what, the nature of human beings is evil from their youth. Human beings are rotten from their core, therefore there's no hope, therefore they need to be destroyed. And that directly precipitates, all puns intended, precipitates the flood. So again, the nature of mankind is evil, therefore let's destroy. And therefore let's destroy. After the flood, famously, when Noah gets off the boat, Noah brings offerings to God, and God says to Noah, you know what, Noah, I promise I will never again destroy the world with a flood. And as a sign, unmute yourself if you know the sign, God says, and to prove it, I have a sign that I'm putting in the heavens, a sign, no more destruction through floods. And what is the sign? Help me out, guys.
A rainbow.
A rainbow. Excellent. The rainbow is the sign. Why does God say that he will no longer destroy the earth or destroy human beings? Why? Because what are you going to do? The nature of people is negative from their youth. So how you can't really hold them accountable because that is their nature. They have these negative tendencies and proclivities, which means that essentially, yes, negative the animal soul, yes. The animal soul would be that core, that source of negativity inside, or the evil inclination. But the point is that before the flood, God says, human beings are evil, let's destroy them. After the flood, God says, what are you going to do? Human beings are challenged. Let's keep them around. Let's be compassionate upon them. Taking the same core logic and applying it 180 degrees opposite of how it was originally applied. You can take the concept that human beings are morally challenged. Let's say it in a nice way, right? Human beings, here's the premise. Here's the statement. Let's call it a statement of truth. Human beings are morally challenged. Therefore, A, get rid of them, or B, be understanding, be compassionate. Help them out a little bit. Both are valid outcomes of that first statement. So the first statement, human beings are inherently morally challenged, that might be a true statement. I'm going to say it is a true statement. That's a true statement that we would call that a pure logical point. In other words, it's a pure point in a svara, pure point of logic or a pure idea. Human beings are inherently ethically and morally challenged. Okay, now what? Get rid of them? Or be understanding, understand where they're coming from and be a little bit more tolerant. Both could follow. So before the flood, God took the hardline approach. Got to get rid of them. After the flood, God softened, and God says, you know what? What are you going to do? These are human beings. We got to work with them. We got to, maybe we'll give them the Torah. Maybe that will help. But let's now work with humanity instead of taking a very hardline approach. My point of all this is to say that the purer something is, in other words, the less concretized something is, the less a pure idea takes on a specific recommendation, let's say, or a specific outcome, the more idealistic it is, the more it can flip to either side, either positive or negative, or strict or lenient, etc., depending on the situation. So Torah is so pure that depending on who's looking at it, you can find different ideas that are even contradictory. So the Academy of Shammai was always strict. They looked into Torah and they found stringencies. And the Academy of Hillel, they found leniencies. So which is right? That's it. They're both right. Mark is writing to me. God gave us free will and doesn't know or cause all that we do. Otherwise, God has a question that he knows will sin and be wiped out by a flood. Okay, yeah, you could say that. In other words, the question is, Mark is asking, or Mark is saying, like, do we say that God knew that human beings are going to be corrupt? If so, why did he make us? And the answer is, did he know? I don't know if he knew, but the core point that Mark is saying, that we have free choice, absolutely is correct. We have free choice, and that leads to all sorts of reactions. Every action leads to a reaction. So today I want to share with you an opposite conclusion. Last week we talked about the dual notions of getting rid of the negative and doing good. And I said last week that the first thing we need to do, in general, is get rid of the negative and then bring in the positive. Like if you buy a home, that's a fixer-upper. So the first thing you're going to do is get rid of all the stuff that's broken, right? Get rid of all the stuff, the debris and the garbage. Get rid of all the negative, the unwanted. And then you're going to bring in the nice furniture. You're not going to start bringing in the furniture, the beautiful pieces of art when the place is a disaster. You're going to first clean it up, and then you're going to bring in the nice stuff. And we said the same thing is true when it comes to our spiritual service. You can't clean up. You can't really truly change unless you first discarded the negative, and then you can adopt the positive. Otherwise, the example that I gave last week is like going into the mikveh, into the ritual purifying bath, holding on to the source of the impurity, the dead rat. So, yeah, it's nice that you're going to the mikveh, but you're holding on to the negative. You got to get rid of the negative and then introduce the positive. And today, I want to say the opposite, because that's how we roll. And the opposite is, don't wait until you've cleaned up everything. Start by doing good, right? Don't wait until everything is clean and pure and spick and span. That is going to take way too long. If you're trying to get everything polished up and all the debris and all of the negativity cleaned out, good luck, because the nature of human beings is challenged, morally, ethically challenged from the get-go. If we wait till we're perfect, then we're never going to bring in any nice furniture, i.e. any good behavior. And so I want to share with you that at the beginning of this week's Torah portion, Naso, the second round, this is round 2 of Naso, right? The Lord spoke to Moses saying, take a census, count the sons of Gershon. I'm highlighting the verse. These are the first 2 verses of our Torah portion, verses 21 and 22 of the book of Numbers. And God is telling Moshe to count the Levite family of Gershon. However, this is the second family that's counted. The first family that's counted at the end of the previous Torah portion was Kahat. Kahat was counted first and then Gershon. Even though in the birth order, in the order of their actual birth, the actual person named Gershon was born before Kahat. It was Gershon, Kahat, and Merari in the birth order. Gershon first, and then Kahat, and then Merari. However, when these families are counted, the order is flipped. 1 and 2 are reversed. It's 2, 1, 3. It's Kahat, then Gershon, then Merari. And the question is, why is the order reversed? If Gershon is born first, if Gershon is born first, why aren't they counted first? And if Kahat is counted first, why weren't they born first? I hope you understand the question works both ways. If Gershon is born first, so then count them first. And if for some reason Kahat is more important, needs to be counted first, then they should have been born first. There's a beautiful answer. Yes, Kahat carried the ark. So according to some, I was looking up the commentaries before. Give me a second. Just so you see what a Mikra Gedolah looks like. This is a classic Torah commentary volume. So the actual Torah text is the larger letters, and all of the other stuff are different commentaries. Can you see how many commentaries are on the page? There's about a dozen commentaries. flipping to another random page. Of course, it's not random, it's Torah, but right? You get a sense of what's going on. So each page has like a dozen or so commentaries. So I was looking up before, and some of the commentaries, Mark, you're right, say that since Kahat carried the ark, that's why they were counted first, because the ark was the first thing that was made, and the ark is the most central part of the tabernacle. So those that carry the ark go first. But again, that evokes the other question. And that is, well, if Kahat is carrying the ark, which means that they're somehow privileged or special, well then, why weren't they born first? Why were they born second? So what's going on here? So last week I told you what I told you, and I reviewed it already today. But today I want to tell you something else. In theory, yes. One more thing. Gershon represents getting rid of. Like Gershon is like Gershon. Gershon is evicting. It's eviction. So Gershon is evicting the negative. Kahat is bringing the positive. Bringing the ark, folks. Right? All right. Bringing the ark. We got space. Right? So Gershon is getting rid of the negative. Kahat is bringing in the positive. So here's the order. You ready? There's 2 points. When it comes to the birth order, we say first Gershon. This is what I said last week. First Gershon. First get rid of the negative. And then Kahat, and then bring in the positive. But when it comes to practice, that's how it is in theory in the birth order. But when it comes to practical avodah, practical service, who's counted first? Kahat. Because the message of the Torah is, don't wait until you've evicted, until you've rid yourself of all your vices, of all your challenges, of all your temptations, of all your negativity, of all your impurities, before you start doing good, before you start doing a mitzvah. If you wait for that, you might wait forever. I don't mean you specifically, I mean me, right? All of us. If we're waiting till we've gotten rid of all of the negative, it could be an eternal wait. Therefore, the Torah says, count Kahat first. Yeah, in theory, the order is Gershon Kahat. First get rid of, first evict the negative, bring in the positive. But in practice, bring in the positive. Because when you bring in the positive, that already causes you to be inspired to get rid of the negative. And to give you that example, to explain that example, I do think I gave this example maybe last week, but I think in this context it really rings true. And that is, sometimes you bring in a beautiful piece of art or piece of furniture or something new into a home, and the next thing you know, that stirs a bit of a renovation, right? And you start getting rid of the things that don't fit that beautiful new piece. Even if it's one small piece, right? One piece of art on the wall. Not necessarily referring to that, right? But one piece, those are 3 pieces. One piece of art on the wall, suddenly you look at the home in a different way. You say, wait a second, there's so much potential, there's so much beauty. I didn't see it until I brought in this piece. Wow, I have to get rid of all this stuff that doesn't fit the beauty of the home. And the same thing is true with you and I. We're beautiful inside, but sometimes we don't notice it, or we're not thinking about it. But introduce the ark, bring in Kahat, bring in something beautiful, and you say, wait a second, there's beauty, let me get rid of some more negativity. So first Kahat, and then Gershon. The normative approach, in other words, if you're writing this down on paper, the approach would be add something Jewy that you haven't been doing, add something spiritual, add something divine, godly, uplifting, right? And then, with that new practice, that new behavior, that new commitment, you'll say to yourself, you know what? That's beautiful. Let me get rid of some stuff that are not fitting with that. Does this make sense? Yes? Thumbs up if any of it makes sense? Okay, excellent. I want to share with you one more insight, and that is regarding the specific work of the Gershon family. Well, not the specific work. They were carrying the curtains, but I want to highlight this verse. This one small verse that doesn't seem to be saying much, to be honest, but it says a lot. This is the service, kind of like the introduction verse. This is the service of the Gershonite families, not the Samsonite. They were the ones who made the luggage. That was a joke. This is the service of the tough crowd today. This is the service of the Gershonite families to serve and to carry. These words I want to highlight: to serve and to carry. In the Hebrew, la'avod ulamasa. La'avod is like avodah, to serve, and ulamasa, masa means to carry. So what was their job? Serving and carrying. One could look at this and say they were glorified schleppers. You know what a schlepper is? A schlepper is someone who schleps. You know what schlepping is? Schlepping is carrying, essentially. It's. I have a friend who was in the pet moving business. Oh, Yiddish class. Yes, Donna. Oh, good. Thank you. I don't know how I missed that segue. If you're not sure what schlep is, or you want to use it correctly in a sentence or in a paragraph, join us next Monday night for the Yiddish course. You don't want to miss this. All right. So I have a friend who was in the pet moving business. People relocate, and they sometimes across the world, internationally. And how do you get your pet? How do you take your animals? You put them in your carry-on. So it's not always so easy. So this was a company that helped people move. So he used to call himself, he used to introduce, like, what do I do? He says, I'm a pet schlepper. That's what I do. I'm a pet schlepper. I schlep pets. Schlepping means you're carrying, you're moving, you're transporting. So what was the Gershonite family, and really all the Levi families? They were schleppers. They were schlepping the Mishkan. Now, schlepping usually has somewhat of a casual or even, somewhat tongue-in-cheek connotation. I don't mean it in a derogatory sense, but essentially they were transporters. But there's two ways to look at carrying. There's two ways to look at this word carrying. And for this, to understand this, I want to share with you a story. There was once a father and a son who were hiking. And it's a parable. So a father and a son were once hiking. And they were hiking down, they hiked up the mountain, and then they were on their way down. And as they're walking down the trail, down the mountain, they see a man who's walking up the mountain, who's carrying a very large sack over his shoulder, and he's kvetching. Oh, Yiddish class. He's kvetching. He's complaining, he's moaning and groaning, kvetching, ecking and becking. He's making a lot of noise. As he's schlepping, he's perspiring, he's schwitzing. Another word, sweating. I'm not going to give too much away. You have to join us next week. So, exerting a lot of effort, doing this, getting this big, heavy package or heavy bag up the mountain. And so the son is curious. The young boy is curious. Says to the man as they pass by, he says, "Tell me, what are you carrying? It looks like it's not so pleasant for you." He says, "Yeah, my job is schlepping rocks up a hill. I have to take it from the quarry at the bottom in the valley and have to bring it up. They're building some construction at the top of the mountain. Ich weiß nicht, whatever it is. He's schlepping rocks up the hill, up the mountain, and he's not happy about it. But that's his job, so he has to do it. But he's kvetching. He's complaining about it. Fine. They continue on their way, and the father and son continue down the path. And this father and son see another man with also looks like an equally sized heavy sack. But this guy is running up the mountain with joy. He is dancing up the mountain with the same package. Well, the same size. It looks like the same weight. The same size package. Yiddish. Same size package. He's running. He's alighting up the mountain. And he's perspiring, but you could see that these beads of sweat are joyous beads of sweat, and not the negative ones. So the son can't hold himself back. He says, Tell me, what are you carrying? He says, you'll never guess. I was working down there in the valley, and I came upon a treasure, an abandoned treasure of gold and diamonds and precious gems. It's in this sack. Shh, don't tell anybody. And he says, I'm taking it to my house. So let me ask you a question. Assuming that the weight, if you weighed the two sacks, assuming that the weights were equal, why is it that person number one felt it to be a burden and person number two felt it to be a source of joy? The answer is simple. Because the first one saw it as a job, saw it as something that he doesn't want to do, something that he has to do, I guess, to earn a living, but he's not excited about it. The second guy recognized it as precious gems. It's the greatest blessing. You see, perspective changes everything. Your perspective on your burden can transform it from being something that is unbearable to something that is light and joyous. It could be the same objective burden, the same objective weight, the same objective exertion of energy, but it's a completely different experience based on perception. If I look at it as rocks, I'm going to be miserable carrying it. If I look at it as diamonds, I'm going to be joyous carrying it. It's the same thing in any task in life. We all have commitments and we all have obligations. Yeah, commitments to parents. How do we look at it? As schlepping rocks or carrying diamonds? Commitments to our children. Schlepping rocks or carrying diamonds? Commitments to our spouses, to our communities, to our co-workers. Schlepping rocks or carrying home diamonds? It's a question that you and I answer for ourselves. Only you can answer that question. Only I can answer that question. But how you answer that question will determine your level of dissatisfaction versus satisfaction in what you're doing. So here's the key in life. In life, you can't necessarily guarantee that you're not going to be carrying weight over your shoulder. In life, we're usually carrying some weight. The question is, will you decide that that weight is a pain and is annoying and is terrible, or will you decide that that weight is your purpose in life? And because it's your purpose in life, that becomes your diamond. The Torah tells us that when it came to the Levite families, their avoda, their service, was to carry. They looked at their avoda as a masa. Their masa was their avoda. Their carrying was their service. They didn't look at it as a burden. They looked at it as their way of serving God. And so, this is the final point that I'd like to leave you with today. As I said a moment ago, there are no shortcuts in life. And there's no easy pill to swallow to ensure that we only live a life free of any challenges and any burdens. But how heavy that is, how heavy those burdens are to you, is completely within your control. If you look at it as something that is your purpose, your calling, even if you don't understand it, but all you understand is, this is my avodah, this is my service, this is my why. It's not what I wanted out of life, but what life wants from me in this moment. My burden, my avodah, is to carry this right now. I didn't choose it. I wouldn't have written this into my own script, but this is mine to carry. Right now, this is my task. Understanding that and accepting that is the key to transforming rocks to diamonds. Diamonds are produced...
Rabbi.
One second, let me just finish this last point. Diamonds are produced under pressure. And the same thing is true in life. Diamonds are not born, do not emerge from a place of ease, but from a place of pressure. When we feel the pressure, it's up to us as to what happens with that. Does it break us? Or do we turn that into diamonds? Ray, go ahead.
Isn't there an obligation, if you find something, aren't you responsible to connect it to its owner? So the guy that was not happy about what he was doing was thinking, oh, now I have to go find, but the one that was joyful was thinking, now I can connect the treasure to the owner.
I like that. I don't know if that's the actual meaning of the story. In the parable, the way I've heard it is, one guy was actually carrying rocks, and the other guy was carrying diamonds that were in the clear for him to keep. Let's say he found, some sort of treasure chest that said, this is free and available. Let's just say it says, when you open the box, this is free for the taking. If you find it, it's all yours. Let's just say. So that's the example. But I hear what you're saying. The bottom line, though, is our perception changes everything. Our perception should never be minimized. We should recognize the power of the mind, the power of positive thinking. So it's not going to make the burden less heavy, but it will make it bearable. Like Viktor Frankl writes, if you have a why, you can endure almost any how. But having a why means that you have a purpose. You understand, even if the purpose that you understand is that this is my purpose, right? Even if it's as simple as this is my task, that this is my burden. I am now carrying this. That itself is powerful. All right. So in conclusion today, perception is reality. Yes. Okay. Right. Yeah. So this concludes the thoughts that I wanted to share today. Just to recap very quickly, the first point was, number one, kind of a general, message about the openness of Torah, how Torah has so many different ways to understand and look at it. And if you look at it one way, you can look at it also the completely opposite way, and both can be true. Not always is everything true, but it can be true even if it's opposite. It shouldn't be a binary thing where either this one or this one is correct. They both can be correct. We spoke about this in the context of the birth order of the Levi families versus their call to action in the Torah. The birth order is Gershon and then Kahat. First eviction of the negative, then introduction of the positive. Whereas their call to action is first Kahat and then Gershon. First bring in the good and then get rid of the bad. And we said they both make sense. It makes sense logically that first get rid of the negative and then bring in the positive behaviors. But practically, the way life unfolds is sometimes you just got to get things kick-started. Bring in something beautiful. Bring in a new mitzvah. Bring in a good behavior. And then you'll say, you know what? I'm such a good person. I'm doing all these good things. It's not nice that I'm doing these negative. And then that will stir getting rid of the negative. And then, of course, we spoke about the service of caring and how caring has sometimes a negative connotation. And caring could be seen as a burden in a negative way, but it could also be seen as caring as transporting diamonds. And that's up to us. How do we view our burdens in life? You may not be able to change out your responsibilities, but if you look at it as a privilege, as a zchut, as something that you are lucky to have been tasked with, that could be a game changer. Whether it's our family, our loved ones, helping them out, or whether it's our jobs, you can look at it as a privilege also, what we do, or anything in life. Let's look at our responsibilities as privileges, not as things to get us down. And with that, we will stay positive. And you got to do the work anyway. Might as well do it with ease and with joy. Thank you for joining me today. Join me tonight at 8 p.m. for face masks and the hostage dilemma. You don't want to miss this. This is the current debates that are going on in the U.S. and around the world. We're going to be talking about some ancient debates and comparing and contrasting U.S. law and Jewish law in the matter. So once again, I will share the screen so everybody could see the design for tonight. I'm actually very.
And the link.
The link is on our website. So it's a Zoom event, but it's not this Zoom event. So you have to find it on the website, intownjewishacademy.org/face masks, or you can email me, and I'll send you the direct link. It's going to be on Zoom and on Facebook Live. Facebook, look for the Intown Jewish Academy page. But that is going on 8 p.m. And tell your friends and family. Let them enjoy it also. Okay. Any questions, comments before we close it out? Nope. Okay. Pleasure. Great to see everybody. Mark, great to see you. Yeah, good. See you all. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, same bad time. Oh, one more thing. We have a few surprises coming up over the next few days. So as always, listen, we're always doing surprises. So I don't know if I want to say too much, but let's put it this way. There's an opportunity. I make a world famous potato kugel, right? Some of you know this. I make a world famous potato kugel. Okay. If you've ever wanted to have my kugel in your home, there may or may not be an opportunity this week to have that happen. I can't say more. I can't say more until the information gets out. But let's just put that out there as such. So Stay tuned. Again, stuff happens quickly and it happens rapidly. We live in an ever-changing world, and we are right there with the speed of the world that we live in. So tonight 8 p.m., tomorrow noon, tomorrow night Judaism at Home final class. Look for exciting announcements coming up in the next day or two about Kugel and books, and that's it. I can't say more. Okay, folks, it's great to see you all. Have a great day. Stay healthy, stay safe, and see you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye all.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.